Finally reaching the classroom after the usual walk from the dormitory, as I step inside, my eyes immediately turn to the third seat from the left in the back row, Hanako's seat. It's empty. And after glancing around the classroom, it looks like she isn't here yet. The two girls from the newspaper club are here on the two seats to the left of Hanako's, as are Shizun and Misha, but that's about it. We exchange morning greetings before I take my seat. I have to admit that this is a bit of a relief. This gives me at least a few more minutes to think. Not that I haven't been doing so previously. Ever since our trip to town, Hanako's been on my mind. And I still don't know what to make of my relationship to Hanako. I like her. I can admit that much to myself. I want to protect and shield her from the pain she feels. I really don't think my feelings are just those of friendship anymore. But that said, I feel like I don't even know her. If I made a move on her, how would she take it? Is she in an emotional state that allows her to make a reasonable decision about a relationship? And would she cope with anything that might happen afterwards? There's also a possibility that I'm just completely misinterpreting Hanako. Not a difficult thing to do with someone whose social skills seem to be so underdeveloped. Also, someone is walking towards me. The sound of footsteps coming up to the door makes me perk up. Oh, hey, it be Miki. She barely acknowledges my existence when I accidentally make eye contact with her. I'm about to look away, but another person comes in not long after she takes their seat. Suddenly, Hanako. I feel myself freeze as I see Hanako enter. That is not a rational reaction, but I have no idea how about I should act or what I should say to her. For a moment, our eyes meet. And then, just as quickly, she looks away and moves to her seat without saying a single word. As is now usual for the period following my classes, my face is buried deep in a book that I find thoroughly uninteresting. Studying is not something that comes naturally to me. I didn't study a lot before coming to Yamako, and until now, I've largely managed to coast through on talent alone. It's frustrating that I can't do that anymore. Judging by the faces of the other students in the library, I don't think I'm alone in my distaste for this. Misery loves company, I suppose. I decided to spend some lunchtime with Hanako since we haven't had lunch together for a while now. I may as well have spent the time studying, though. Aside from pathetically small snippets of small talk, there was barely a word said between us. Why does she keep doing this to me? I just want to protect her, to be there for her, but every time I feel like we're coming closer, we end up farther away. Are you busy? Whoa, Hanako? My head whips around in surprise, causing her to retreat in fright. That was bad timing. If I hadn't been thinking about her at that very moment, I probably wouldn't have been nearly so startled. Sorry, you just startled me. I find myself staring at her longer than I should, so I go back to the text lying on the table in front of me. I feel more like I'm just staring at the words rather than actually reading. I get the feeling Hanako can notice this as well, so I sigh and close the book. What's up? I was just wondering what you were reading. She looks a little downcast after my reaction to seeing her. Giving up on the prospect of getting any more work done, I get up and return the book to its place on a nearby shelf. Just an English textbook. Has it helped? It helped me realize that I don't like English, yeah. Hanako gives a small giggle. I may muse on the strange state of our friendship, but I do know that such little gestures are things that I wouldn't see were I not at least somewhat distant. Some distance closer to her than when we first met. I look at her for a moment, thinking about what I do and don't know about her. It's a slightly depressing topic. Is something wrong? If I want to know more about her, maybe I should stop being so evasive about it. Talking with Lily as an equal rather than being constantly in fear of causing her to become upset worked fine, so I should just try a straightforward approach with Hanako as well. Hey Hanako, do you mind if I ask you a question? I don't mind. I want to know what your life was like. Your life before coming to Yamaku. She hesitates. I briefly consider backing off, but she seems to be taking the question quite seriously. I sit and watch her, silently letting her take her time. She's not making eye contact with me and looks almost as if she's arguing with herself into letting herself open up to me more. Her answer finally comes in a stiff, almost reluctant nod. She looks far more tense than she did before I asked. Okay, but in return, you have to tell me about your life as well. I nod and follow her as she begins to walk out the library so we can talk. By now, most of the students have already left the main building, so apart from a few people hovering around the club rooms, the hallways are largely empty. I guess we'll start with coming to Yamaku. Let's see. I was in the hospital when my parents first told me about Yamaku Academy. The doctors told me I shouldn't go to my old school anymore. My parents agreed and persuaded me to apply for Yamaku, even though it would mean living away from them for the first time. It must have been hard for you. Well, yeah, I have to admit that it was. My parents both work long hours and full-time, so having to live reasonably independently wasn't anything new to me. It was the fact that I was going to school for disabled students that hit the hardest, I think. And you? A small group of chatting girls passes us as we near the stairs, with Hanako pressing herself tightly to my side until we reach the ground floor. She doesn't usually come this close when just walking in the school, so I'm a little put off. The staff at the orphanage offered me some options on what I could do. Middle school hadn't been good, so I thought that Yamaku might be better. It was isolated, and I thought it might be easier to get by here with most of the others being disabled. It's pretty ironic that the reasons Hanako looked forward to Yamaku are the exact reasons I hated the idea. To me, it felt like I was being shunted away somewhere from society and everyone I knew. To Hanako, that was probably an inviting prospect. What was life like at the orphanage? It was okay. The staff there were nice, and they took care of us. The children there didn't talk to me much, but I didn't really want to talk with them either, so I didn't mind. The orphanage had a little library, so I started to read to pass the time. The staff didn't mind it because it made me easier to handle than many of the other children. Didn't make any friends there? No, I think my life was on hold during that time. I knew that, but I didn't mind. To think her life was on hold for all that time. Oh, depending on when the fire happened, that was a huge chunk of her life. No parents, no friends, apparently no relatives. We walked through the door into the courtyard. I expected need to avert my eyes from the sun, but by now it's well into sunset. Hanako's eyes keep flicking to me, so I look away from her for a bit. What was it like in the hospital? I quickly clear my thoughts and try to refocus them. I hesitate for a bit, but I know that I have to tell her. We're close enough for her to feel comfortable telling me this, so it's only fair that I reciprocate. If you want to know more about her, you gotta give her everything you got, dude. That's just a fact. It was okay at times, but at others it was pretty bad. At the beginning, everyone sent their sympathies and came to visit often. It was just like breaking an arm or something. Meeting all my friends was one of the good times. Awanako came in often as well, more often than anyone else. But there were bad times too. When my friends slowly stopped visiting, I began to realize how grave my situation was. It reminded me that this wasn't just a broken limb, but that I was now a different person than before. Even the times Awanako would spend with me became torturous. By the end, we were reduced to silence, whereas before, she'd be talking constantly. But that's how Awanako always was. She may have been a fragile person, but she would talk constantly to try and hide that fact. Not about anything particular, just talk. I think the three lowest points would have been when my parents told me I wouldn't be going to my old school anymore, my birthday passing while in the hospital, and when Awanako left for the last time. We leave the school buildings behind as we begin to follow the main path through the gardens. There may have been the odd bystander in the school buildings, but outside, we're practically alone. What was your middle school like? I liked it. I grew up in a really metropolitan area, and the middle school was nearby, so it was pretty crowded. I didn't mind it, probably because I'm used to being in crowds and around lots of other people. I got good grades, and I played soccer with my friends. I spent a fair bit of time hanging out with them after school as well. Did get teased a bit over my hair, though. Your hair? I grimaced a little as I put my hand over my hair to cover it. I keep getting tufts and strands that refuse to flatten or stay where I wanted them, and my mother wouldn't let me just get my hair shaved. It had a habit of popping out no matter how much I tried to brush it down. It still does a little. I was worried I'd get that reply. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I give a mild laugh and wave it off. It's fine, I know it still does. It feels strange to have someone act so interested in my past. If it were anyone else, I think they were just acting polite, but that's something I really don't think Hanako would do. Or if she did, she'd do it so badly that it would be obvious. There are a number of girls in the common room on the ground floor, and Hanako presses herself to my side once more as we pass them. I expect her to break off, but instead she continues to cling on to me as we walk towards the stairway. Something about the way she's holding on to me feels different from usual. I'm left deep in thought as we walk up the stairs and down the hallway. It's only when we stop that I look up and realize that I've been following her without question. Why did we come to your dormitory room? She looks straight at the door without so much as a glance in my direction. Hanako? She moves to answer, but stops herself. Instead, she silently breaks from my side, opens her door, and steps inside. I look up and down the hallway, a bit lost as to exactly what I should do. Shrugging, I decide to follow her since I don't have any reasons to do otherwise. Hanako stands in the middle of her room and looks straight at me. It's unnerving when she does this, as it's such an unusual action for her. I open my mouth to speak, but she preempts me. Could you close and lock the door? Hanako's hand reaches for her chest, grabbing her blouse at her heart. Okay. I turn and lock the door shut, then freeze. The atmosphere is beginning to feel quite strange. This feeling is only made more profound when I hear the curtains being pulled behind me. It's gonna be night soon. Or a guy and a girl in a bedroom. She's closing the curtains, and I'm shutting and locking the door. She can't really have that in mind, can she? I gulp and turn around very, very slowly. Hanako is in the center of the room, but hasn't turned back to face me. You told me about your past, so I have to tell you mine. She takes a deep, shuddering breath and pauses for a number of seconds. Her hands move to her ribbon and begin to tug, all but confirming my thoughts. Hanako, please don't say anything. I obediently stay hushed as she slips off her ribbon and continues to unbutton her blouse. Before working the clip on her bra, the process is slow. Perhaps it just feels slow because of what she's doing. I'm not sure. Okay. Frozen to the spot, all I can do is watch as Hanako, hands trembling, unclips her skirt and lets it drop to the ground. Finally, she takes her blouse in her hand and draws it off, her bra falling from her shoulders, and so, Hanako stands in the middle of the room, all but bared save for her stockings and underwear. Wow. Huh. Sorry, I guess I'm just taking it in. This is me. All of me. My eyes are immediately drawn to the scarring on her back. The skin on her right side is of a similar texture to that of her face, but it's also stretched taut and covering a much larger area. The scarring is by far the worst on her shoulder, buttock, and thigh. Just as my heart attack redefined my life, this is the event that redefined Hanako's. If I'd seen this when I first met her, I'd have been shocked. Not only at the sight, but also at the idea that something like this was survivable. But after having had time to get used to the idea, and after seeing the scars on her face, hands, and collar, my reaction is more measured. My reaction right now is not due to her scarring, but to her body. The fire happened when I was 8 years old. It was night, and we were sleeping when it started. Hanako's voice trembles, the shaking of her blouse giving away the fact that her hands are doing just the same. I curled up into a ball. When the fire swept over me, my mother tried to shield me. That's the only reason I lived. Hanako's eyes begin to moisten, her voice cracking under the combined pressure of exposing herself to me like this and reliving those painful memories from so long ago. I want to say something, anything to make her feel better. I can't, though. I feel completely useless when faced with a situation like this. She's forcing herself to come so close, yet it's at times like this that I feel most distant to her. I'm sorry for making you see this. There's no point in denying the obvious. I think what I should say now and what Hanako wants me to say now is the truth. What I genuinely, honestly believe. It doesn't matter. You're a wonderful person, Hanako. Your body doesn't change that. She looks at me for a long time, her breathing uneven as she tries to remain steady amidst the emotions we're both feeling. It feels like she's looking at me she's looking at me than she's looking through me. I slowly walk towards her and gently place my hands on her shoulders as she lets go of her blouse. She gasps a little, not in fright, but in simple startlement. Being so close to her causes my mind to become a jumble of feelings. The scarring on her shoulder, plain to see and leather-like to the touch, conflicts strangely with her otherwise soft skin and silky dark hair. Hanako is a girl, with all that entails. She's taller than usual for a woman, but still has curves in all the right places. The nape of her neck, just visible thanks to her hair slung over her shoulder, is alluring. I know that I'm not pretty, like Lily. I just wanted you to see me. The real me. I've already seen the real you, though. You don't need to take off your clothes for that. Her lips are open, just a little. She lets out a sharp breath as, without thinking, I breathlessly lean forward and press my lips to hers. The kiss only lasts for a fleeting moment before our faces part, our breathing quick and nervous. The feeling of Hanako's mouth lingers, and her eyes remain locked to mine. Trembling a little myself, I remove my tie and begin undoing the buttons of my shirt. Hanako remains standing where she is, looking at the ground in front of her rather than watching me undress. On the other hand, I'm thankful for that. I've always been somewhat self-conscious of my body, but my scarring has made that quite a lot worse. On the other hand, though, this atmosphere feels very strange. My shirt falls to the floor in a heap, as untidied and crumbled as Hanako's blouse and skirt. Hanako's entire body visibly flinches at the sound of the zipper of her trousers being pulled down. My trousers join my shirt on Hanako's floor, next to the bed, as do my socks in short measure. I hesitate before taking off my boxers and end up leaving them on. They represent one last hurdle that I don't think I can quite overcome quite yet. Sheer embarrassment stops me, along with not wanting Hanako even more worked up. My unease about the situation has also left me needing my own stimulation. Hanako. She gives a nod without so much as glancing at me, and makes her way to the bed as I do. She walks as if her legs were wooden sticks. I find it amusing if I weren't doing exactly the same thing. I take the initiative, turning around and sitting on the side of the bed. I look up to face her to invite her to take a seat either next to me or in front of me, but end up awkwardly looking down to stop myself from staring at her body. And then, after a couple of seconds, it ends. The sounds of Hanako's breathing and my own rings in my ears, almost painfully loudly. Hanako holds an arm over her face, her mouth open and gulping in air. As I hold myself over her, suddenly my arms almost give way and my vision distorts, as if someone grabbed it and pulled sideways. I let myself fall sideways onto the bed before the panting Hanako, for fear of falling onto her instead. We both lie beside each other, naked and pressed against one another in order to fit on a bed made for a single person. My eyes try to focus on the ceiling, to not much success. Pulling a blanket over us to stave off the cold is all I can do. The only sound in the room is that of our breathing. The sweat that accumulated on my body feels uncomfortable. We're both physically and emotionally exhausted, and a complete mess all over. My vision slowly begins to return to normal as I continue to stare at the ceiling, but my limbs still feel like jelly. I try to concentrate on my chest and find its beat irregular and mildly painful. This is a dangerous time. I have to think this through and not panic, lest I make my situation any worse. With a huge effort, I take control of my erratic breathing, forcing myself to make long, deep breaths. I count half a dozen before I start to feel physically calm again and press my hand to my chest to assure myself. My heart beats back to normal. I'm okay. I turn my face towards Hanako, who's already looking at me. Her expression looks pretty dazed, but underneath that, there's definitely a look of concern. She's realized what happened. I'm okay. Everything's back to normal. I find myself barely able to get the words out between breaths. I don't think sex would tire a normal body out this much, so I have no doubt my condition's at least partially at fault. Why did my body have to do this right now? All thoughts of my heart, though, are pushed aside as I see the wide smile forming on Hanako's face. It do be mad cute. As always, I smile back without another thought. Hanako's smile has always been infectious in its almost childlike sweetness and earnesty, something that sets her apart from anyone else I know. Right now, We don't need words. Everything we want to communicate to each other, we can share just fine without them. Well then. That certainly transpired. My eyes feel heavy as they slowly open, the light from outside making me blink a bit to let them get adjusted. My body feels like lead and my head feels just as heavy. Waking up to an unfamiliar ceiling is an uncomfortable feeling. It reminds me of the first time I awoke to the dimpled white tile ceiling of the hospital. It's only after spending a few seconds staring up at that I realize where I am. This is Hanako's dormitory room. I feel as though my heart stopped again as the events of last night rush through my head. Blood rushes to my cheeks and I shut my eyes once more. There's very little point to getting myself worked up this early though, so I try to push such thoughts out of my mind for now. I roll my head to the side to see if Hanako's where she was when I drifted off to sleep. All that's there now is an empty space on the bed and the room beyond. I sluggishly sit up and rub my eyes before pinching the bridge of my nose and looking around the room. The only person here is me. I'm still bereft of my clothes, and after a quick scan of the floor for them, I notice they're neatly folded in the corner of the room. Try as I might, I can't see Hanako anywhere. The foil packet for the... removed too. Presumably put into the bin. With a great yawn, I get myself out of bed and quickly look for some underwear. I grimace a little at the prospect of putting my boxers back on after yesterday's efforts. Did a good job, but I don't have much of a choice. Taking advantage of the fact that I have some time without anyone around, I get myself dressed for the coming school day in short order. And then, I'm alone. Without anything more to busy myself with, my mind becomes focused on the fact that I'm standing in another person's bedroom after we spent the night together. But there's not a single sign of her around. My gut proves to be more helpful than my brain at working out this riddle. With a loud growl, it reminds me that she may well just be getting breakfast. I would have liked to wake up next to her, but maybe it's a good thing that I have a few moments alone. Hanako's room, as always, is quite bleak in appearance. There are precious few decorations and practically no personal artifacts that are hidden away in cupboards and drawers. Aren't hidden. She's lived here for 3 years, but the room looks as if it's barely been occupied for a single day. I shouldn't overthink this. She must just like living this way, as some do. Having the ability to put such low stock in physical possessions does have its advantages, but even so, it feels a little disconcerting given her past. She said she views herself as having had her life on hold while at the orphanage. She certainly lives as if she still does, but after what happened last night, it's pretty hard to imagine she still thinks that way. The sound of the door handle cracks through my thoughts, and I turn to face it. Sure enough, Hanako comes through and shuts the door behind her. She has what seems to be 2 microwaved instant meals in her hands, so this is a little difficult. Good morning, Hanako. Morning. She gives a little bow before making her way to her desk, setting down both plates. I can see now that this seems to be small satay dishes, their contents steaming with a fork stuck inside the rice of each. I give thanks to her for bringing them in, and we each take one and get down to eating. She sits on her desk chair while I sit on the side of the bed. I don't like talking while eating, so the silence between us isn't annoying in of itself. It's the fact that it only exists because we don't quite know what to say to each other that's off-putting. Hanako glances towards me every so often as she eats. I only notice her doing so because I'm doing just the same thing. We're eating together as if we're a couple. Even last night, a first for the both of us. Something feels wrong, though. Maybe that's why we can't even say a word to each other as we finish our plates and leave them in the sink. Maybe that's why we leave Hanako's room without holding hands or making small talk. Maybe that's why it feels as if we're further apart than we've ever been before. We enter the classroom together, neither of us so much as glancing at each other. Just after we do, I realize this may have been a mistake. Shizun lifts her eyebrow at her sight, her suspicions raised. We reach the center aisle between the classroom's desks and look to each other. I'm not quite sure what I should say. Does she want me to address her as a girlfriend? I didn't think our relationship was... that's why this feels so strange. See you. Okay. I awkwardly hold up a hand as we part and take our seats at our respective desks. I can't even look back to her out of embarrassment. I feel like the gulf between Hanako and me is because of me. Shizun begins to make her way towards me, but then Muto enters the room. so she just kind of goes back. I'm thankful for his arrival being so well-timed, drawing Shizune and her questioning away to wait for another time. I wouldn't have been able to answer her anyway. I like Hanako, but I never told her what my feelings for her are. Hanako never said she saw me as anything beyond a friend either, yet, despite that, we slept together. That's an interesting situation. I don't know what the etiquette is supposed to be for that. I really, truly don't. The bell to signal the beginning of lunch rings out. Muto is taken a little off guard, his chemistry lecture being cut off mid-sentence, much to his chagrin. For the entirety of the class, his ramblings have passed, one through one ear and out the other, as my mind mulls over the question of Hanako. I can't get her out of my mind, and by now I've managed to wind myself up about it. I realize that she never said yes to what we did. She didn't say no either, but would she have been able to? She's extremely submissive at the best of times, and no doubt it took her a gargantuan effort to show me her scarring. I decided to try it and at least make conversation with her. That would be better than this monosyllabical communication that's been the most we've managed between each other so far today. I walk to her desk, intending to chat, but she awkwardly blushes and looks down even before I come up to her. I take a breath to speak, but find myself lost for words. What in the world should I say to her? Hearing approaching footsteps, I turn to see Shizune and Misha already making their way towards us, no doubt with the intent to start asking troublesome things. A couple of other classmates are looking to us, gossiping between themselves as they throw sidelong glances. They must have also noticed Hanako and me coming in together earlier. I open my mouth to reassure Hanako, but she preempts me. I gotta go do something! Oh, well, that's a reprise that I don't think is a good sign. She gets out of her chair and dashes for the door. A couple of the books and pens that were on her desk are sent falling to the floor in a rush. Not many people seem to care about this event. A few look around to see what all the fuss is about, but go back to what they were previously doing soon after. I'm left despairing, looking at the door that Hanako disappeared out of. The idea of running after her passes through my mind, but I'm fairly sure that Hanako can run faster than I can. Besides, what would I say to her once I caught up anyway? Eventually, I simply crouched down and began picking up the items that had fallen to the ground from her desk. I feel low in every way, reduced to this as students pass by me on their way out of the room. I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look up to see Shizune and Misha looking at me. Curiosity about the situation written on their faces, mixed with a slightly apologetic look at the idea that they were partially responsible for what just happened. Hee-chan, if we can help at all. I just shake my head. This isn't a matter for them, and from Shizune's expression and the tone of Misha's voice, I think they know the same thing. Shizune acknowledges my response and gives a solemn bow before making her way out of the room. Misha soon follows her out, obediently following her role as Shizune's shadow. That seems like a little bit of a harsh way to really think of her, if I'm being honest, but he's emotional. I pick myself up, books and pens in hand, and place them inside Hanako's desk. With the classroom now empty, I end up just leaning against her desk and thinking to myself in silence. It feels like there's a complete emotional disconnect between Hanako and me. We haven't known each other all that long, and despite wanting to start going out with her, I really don't know that much about how Hanako views things. I've been studying as hard as I can for exams, but I still don't feel like I have any real sense of direction behind it. I tried to be a friend to Hanako, even if I couldn't tell her my feelings, and all we've done is drive each other apart. I couldn't even write a letter back to the one girl who ever loved me, Iwanako. What should I do? What can I do? I simply don't know the answer to either of those questions. I do know now that nobody else can help me with them. Just going back to the way things were would be enough to make me happy, but I know that it can never happen. Something changed between us last night. Maybe it changed beforehand, and it just came to a head then. I know there's a wall that Hanako has between me and her. I've been hitting that wall every time I tried to interact with her on any level. But now I'm beginning to think that I have my own wall between us just as much as she does. She had to practically drag my past out of me, and mine was much less traumatic than hers. I want to say it's because I haven't had long to adjust since my heart attack, but I know full well that would just be an excuse. The one time I can recall when it really felt like she was opening up to me of her own accord, when we were playing billiards in the city, I was the one who stopped her from going further. I want to know Hanako better. I want to save our friendship, if not begin a real relationship with her. My mind begins to tick as I sit against her desk. thinking to myself in the empty classroom that we spent so much time in together. I have to talk to Hanako. I pace around in the park, feelings of anxiety rolling over me. Every so often I reach into my pocket to take out my phone, but each and every time I hesitate and end up slipping it back in. If this were any normal situation, I wouldn't be cutting classes. Unfortunately, it isn't. And so I find myself in the town below the school at 2 in the afternoon. Ever since I met Hanako, I've been the one to initiate everything between us. The one that started conversations, went to her whenever she was, and suggested what we should do. Today, this once, I don't want to be the only one doing that. My hand dives into my pocket once more. This time I quickly navigate to the texting menu before I have a chance to change my mind again. Hanako, if you want to talk, I'll be at the park in the town for a while. Fighting a last measure of doubt, I thumb in my message to Hanako and press the button to send it. And now, I wait. My part in this has been fulfilled. What needs to happen now is for Hanako to make the decision. It'd be meaningless for me to drag her here. She needs to decide for herself whether she wants to meet me. The apple juice from the vending machine tastes awfully bitter as I swirl it down. My grip on the can has caused it to dent slightly in the middle. I shouldn't be this tense, but it's probably inevitable. Hanako is dear to me. What happened in the last couple of days has put a lot of pressure on both of us. The idea of losing all the progress we've made and coming closer to one another and losing our friendship as a whole is deeply unsettling. But even then, I still don't really know how close we are. We may have had sex, but before that, all I knew us to be was friends. Maybe we're more than that, but if so, I never realized it. Maybe that's why I feel so uneasy right now. I don't understand, Hanako. Despite all the time we've spent together, the minutes are ticking by, and I still have no idea whether she'll show up. Hisao? I pause for a moment, almost not believing that I'm hearing the voice I'm hearing. I drop the can and stand up with a start. Hanako! We look at each other for a few seconds before Hanako becomes too embarrassed to maintain eye contact and begins to nervously fiddle with the roughly cut lock of hair covering the side of her face. When I went to see Hanako in a room by myself after her breakdown, I had no idea what to say. That was fine then. All either of us wanted was each other's presence. Now, though, I feel like I need to talk to her directly. I want to break down this wall between us before it forces us apart for good. Hanako, what we did that night, how should I interpret that? Hanako stops playing with her hair and looks at me. Her head cast slightly downwards. She looks ashamed, which is probably a good mirror of how I would look now if I weren't so concerned. I thought, you might eventually go away if I was only someone you needed to protect. I thought that if I let you do that, you might see me as someone more than that. Wow. Okay, so I was partially correct that no, she doesn't really enjoy being pitied or protected all the time. But damn, Hanako. That was a play. But my first reaction is disbelief, but I did do it with her after all. I had plenty of opportunities where I could have stopped things, stepped back, and questioned what we were doing. In the end, though, I didn't. A horrible feeling rises in the pit of my stomach. She offered herself to me because of what she thought I wanted, and now it feels like I took advantage of her. She may have been willing, but only under false premises. Oh, God. I've never been good at hiding my emotions from physically showing, and now is no different. Hanako looks down once more, a strange mixture of depression, regret, and sickness written to her face. Thick silence hangs in the air, save for the breeze blowing through the trees around us. I knew you couldn't look at me that way. Hanako's words are said in little more than a whisper, seemingly directed just as much at herself as to me. In what way? What do you mean? All I ever was to you was a useless person. Just someone to protect. Someone like a child. I wanted to be more to you than that, but after so long, I got used to it. The tone of her voice is unlike any I've heard her use before. She sounds disgusted. Not at me, but at herself. After I came out of my room, I saw that you had started drifting away. I felt like I was going to lose you, because you wanted somebody you could have that kind of relationship with. You were more quiet in school than before, and you were getting on so well with Yuko. I thought that I might lose you. She thought I was bored of her because I wanted a romantic relationship? But we're friends, right? I wouldn't just abandon you like that, even if what you're saying was true. Friendship was something I thought I'd given up on. I stopped believing in others after what happened after the accident. Before the accident happened, I got on well with people and other children. I didn't have many friends, but I didn't mind, because I treasured the ones that I had. Afterwards, though, I was called names by the others and teased a lot. It hurt. Really deeply. The teachers tried to help, but they couldn't do much. And even many of them recoiled just at the sight of me. Among those calling me names and teasing me were the ones that I thought were my closest friends. God, children suck. From then on, I believed that it didn't matter if nobody else acknowledged me. All my existence ever did was make people troubled, after all. It was easier if I just didn't exist. But after meeting Lily, and then you, I tried, but I couldn't make myself think that way again. All that time, she didn't trust me. She thought, just like everyone else in her life had, that she was worthless, someone to throw away once I got bored of being with her. That hurts. That's the one kind of person I never, ever want to be seen as, because I know better than most just how horrible it is to feel to be thrown away by those who I thought liked me. I can deeply relate with that. To put it simply, I have experienced several times over the course of my life 4 specific moments, actually, I can think of, where the person in my life that I thought I could trust without a shadow of a doubt, the person I personally felt closest to, just decided to leave. In 2 instances, they vanished off the face of the earth. Just one day, they never spoke to me again, and I had no way of ever being able to contact them. I tried, but they were just gone. Years, and I mean years after those events, I still think back to the last time I physically saw them. How everything felt so normal. I didn't think anything had changed, anything was different, anything was weird. And they were just gone. So when it comes to the idea of, I guess, giving up on trusting people and just going and just assuming that someone, anybody in your life who you think cares about you will one day vanish. No, I get that completely. As it stands right now, I do have somebody in my life who's very important to me. And they've beaten all prior records in comparison to anybody else who's ever filled that role. It's scary. Really scary opening yourself up after situations like that. But you know, I don't think I have it in me to ever really regret it. Even the people who have left, believe it or not, I don't really actually hold any ill will towards them. I just think about them sometimes, and I wonder, and I hope that wherever they are, they're happy. It takes a lot for me to really trust somebody. But I don't think I've ever regretted doing it. That's just my personal thoughts. And you know who you are. You know who you are. I don't really know what my point is. I don't know. I guess I just feel like I understand how it feels and the appeal of just shutting yourself away and never, ever letting yourself be open to anybody else after any sort of negative situation. I've done it a lot. But ultimately, I feel like everybody does need somebody in their life. I don't think any one person can healthily be an island. And that taking those risks is a good thing. And so far, I don't regret a thing. I really hope these two are able to make this work. I really do. She's cracking from the memories she's bringing up. I feel useless, completely unable to console her. In a strange way, though, I'm almost thankful that she's allowing me to know this. The wall between us is going away, even if it hurts so badly to bring it down. Hanako, if you just told me. Was I wrong? Of course you... She wasn't. Hanako wasn't wrong. It's difficult to force myself to admit this, but I know trying to deny it is pointless. To me and to Lily, she was someone we tried to protect. She had become to me what I'd become to my friends after my heart attack. A broken person. I liked her, possibly even loved her, but I never acted on that precisely because I thought she was so fragile. I mean, I don't look at you that way now. I got worried about you after what happened to you in class, and I thought I should try to protect you. When you locked yourself in your room, though, I got afraid. I thought you were rejecting me, and it forced me to think about different things. I wasn't rejecting you. She blurts it out with an almost scared tone to her voice, taking me off guard. She quickly became embarrassed by her outburst before clenching her fists and working through what she wants to say in her mind. I wouldn't ever do that. Not to you. Even though I was scared, even though I tried to push you away, you still tried to get closer to me. I locked myself away because I was just a burden to you, to Lily, to everyone. Every birthday was the same. Everyone doing their best to pretend that I mattered. Everyone pretending everything was all right for that one day of the year. I didn't want to exist, but they wouldn't let me. Even after meeting Lily, everything was the same. I was as useless as I'd always been, unable to do anything for her or for myself. I didn't want to be the same way to you. Lily and I were completely wrong. From what she said, everything we did for her would have only made her feel worse. Even what little I thought I had right about her was complete misjudgment. After you locked yourself in your room, I decided to try to work out my past as well, and sort out my future. I didn't know how to deal with the things I'd lost by coming to Yamaku, so I was trying to sort them out myself. I thought it would help us become better friends if I did that. Silence hangs in the air again. I try to keep looking at her, but I can't. I feel really low, and though I want to apologize, I don't know how I possibly could. I hear her take a deep breath and only look back to her after hearing her drop to the ground. Whoa! The sound of her crying breaks my heart. I know I'm responsible for this, and I know that I can't do anything to help her. If Hanako feels ashamed, then I feel all the more so. I rush to her as tears continue to roll down her cheeks unabated, wrapping my arms around her. I don't care how much I look anymore. I just want to be close to her right now. I'm sorry, Hisao. I messed everything up. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm the one that should be sorry. I was meddling around behind your back, and I never told you anything. I can feel my grip tightening on Hanako as my vision blurs. I can't be bothered trying to hold back now. I have to force my words out as a lump begins to stick in my throat. To tell you the truth, Hanako, I was scared. For the first time since my heart attack, I was really scared. Sao? I lost so much when I came to Yamaku. I was depending on you, more than I ever thought I did. Even now, I still have that hole inside me. After losing my entire life and everyone I'd known, the thought of losing you as well. But I'm just a useless... You're my friend, Hanako! No, you're more than that. I love you, Hanako. I love you so much that the thought of losing you frightened me so much. Oh, this is bad. I'm really letting all of this out. I can't bring myself to look at her face right now. I'm sorry, Hisao. I can't help feeling a bit happy. For so long, that's what I've wanted to hear. The last of the floodgates break, the sound of her crying permeating the air as her body jerks against mine. We hold each other tightly, connected more closely than ever in our shared grief and our shared happiness. I don't know how things are going to be like after this. Right now, though, I don't care. There's no other person in the world that either of us could possibly share these memories and emotions with. Nobody. After dropping the dirtied can into a bin next to the bench, I take a seat beside Hanako. She puts away the handkerchief I gave her to clean herself up, which hasn't helped much. Then again, I doubt I look much more presentable. Even now, I feel emptied and a bit embarrassed after letting my emotions out in public like that. It's not a bad sensation, though. I think Hanako feels the same way, too. Have you calmed down a bit? Yeah. Thank you. For a while, we just sit there and take our time before talking again to one another. We both need a little time to collect ourselves. The weather's nice at this time of year. Yeah, it is. I close my eyes for a moment, relishing the feeling of the sun's heat and the cool breeze against my face. The weather really is nice today. Really, really nice. You know, I don't really want to go back to classes right now. Do you? She shakes her head as she finishes wiping her eyes with her cuff. The small smile she gives is nice, and it's a reminder of how earnest she can be. Smiling for other people might be a completely normal everyday thing. For Hanako, though, she smiles so rarely and so sincerely that each and every time she does, I feel a sense of relief and happiness. I'm sorry for everything. It's okay. I think we both have a bit to be sorry for. I know that I'm too shy. I know you don't want me to be. I don't think I can. You can change, Hanako. I know that because even in the time I've known you, you've already changed. To be honest, just being able to sit here and talk to you like this means that you've changed a lot since we first met. But I can't be like that for anyone else. I don't have any plans for after school ends either. Hanako's confidence begins to slide down again, but I think that now I can finally talk to her as an equal. I can do it because I know that we're just the same in so many ways. Just give yourself time, and I think you'll be able to achieve what you want. No, I'm sure that you'll be able to do it. I can see you've been trying, and I have faith in you. And you can depend on me if you feel like you need someone to support you, you know. But I can't ask that of you. You can, because that's exactly what I'm asking of you. Going through the same thing, you know. It's called love. Hanako smiles. Before I get off the bench and dust myself off, she does the same in short measure. I'm kinda hungry. Wanna grab something to eat? She nods vigorously. The way she's smiling, the way she's acting, even just the general air she gives off. I feel as if this is the first time I've seen her genuinely happy. We both make our way onto the street, walking beside each other. Sal? Yeah? I think I don't really understand you. I don't think I understand you either. I believe that's fine, though. There's not a single hint of despair in our voices. Not understanding each other is only natural. The walls we set up between ourselves couldn't possibly be broken down in a single day. But that's fine. As long as we take it day by day and try to understand one another, I think everything will be okay. As we walk down the street, though, Hanako's eyes flick to my face and back to the street repeatedly. Is something on your mind? You look restless. She slows before stopping completely. When I turn to meet her, she takes a long, deep breath, looking at my face intently. This expression. I saw it once before on her face. Just once. When I accidentally surprised her in her room. I think I have something I need to give you. What is it? You don't need to be evasive about it. I wanted to give you this for a long, long time, but now that I need to, it's too embarrassing. Don't worry. I'll accept it, whatever it is. She gives a sweet, bashful smile before taking my shoulder in her hand. Then please accept my first gift to you, Hisao. Hanako? Aww. Now that was an interesting one. I'm gonna try my best to not compare story routes with each of the girls, because I feel like that's not fair to all of them. But I find it interesting in this one that it's not so clear-cut, you know? It's not 100%... It's not 100% that everything is going to be absolutely okay. But I feel like after everything we just saw at the end there, that all of the pieces have been put in place, that the possibility of things ending up okay are really, really high. I personally believe that in this timeline, these two are definitely going to make it work. I think they're both going to be really happy. And that's pretty heartwarming. This is a very good game.